Hello, my name is Zed, welcome to the Shovelware House, and to a special NES showcase. Today we're going to be looking at something that has just been released on the internet for free. It's a new emulator that turns NES games 3D. It's kind of weird 3D, you're watching it at the moment, and it doesn't work very well. It's very early development. Some games work better than others, and a lot of games just don't work at all. You'll see footage here of Batman and DuckTales, which are two games that get really glitchy with it, but that I could play blindfolded. Now obviously, other people I imagine will be covering your Marios and your Zeldas and your Mega Mans and stuff, but you're on the Shovelware House, and you don't come here for that. You come here to see terrible video games. And now, you get to see terrible video games on the NES in 3D. So here we go. It's the Little Mermaid from Disney. That's Ariel. She's there in a 3D silhouette, so she actually doesn't exist. It's kind of interesting. And this is the game. Zooms in on a little bit of story. Those of you that don't know the story, I've just realised I've chopped Ariel's head right in half at the chin. And Prince Eric, or whatever his name is, has now lost his head completely. Here we are in the Sea of Coral. There's Ariel, she's all 3D and whooshy. And this really does show off, I think, this emulator quite well. You can zoom it that way, and then it's like you're going in sort of first person. It's a very, it basically turns every NES game into Super Paper Mario from the Wii. And of course this is shovelware, so this game is absolutely awful. What you do is you turn the fish into bubbles. Come here, fish. Allow me to demonstrate on you. Fish, come here. Never mind. You turn the fish into bubbles by shooting them with something, and then you can just kind of fire them off somewhere else. And as you can see, you can kind of zoom around in the emulator, and it'll give you a lot of depth to what is otherwise a two-dimensional space. It's very buggy, incredibly buggy. It's quite an early release, I think. Like, it's just super buggy. Most games don't work, but you can see how it's supposed to work. And, you know, the parts that it does look good on, it looks really good on. So we're just going to continue through the ocean killing fish, which I don't think was part of the original Little Mermaid. I think they might have taken some artistic licenses with this. Something I've noticed that's a problem in some of the other games, it'll probably come up later on, sometimes it's hard to tell where the background is. So, like, this is okay because it's just sort of a scrolling. Oh, we're on a boss fight. There's a shark. Yes, this has boss fights. Remember when Ariel had that boss fight with a shark in the film? And look at that, the depth's really cool. Makes the shark look like a series of hula hoops tied together. But other than that, it's kind of cool. So yeah, remember that part of the film where Ariel traps her underwater friends in a bubble to shoot them at a shark? I remember that. You can also, if you want, go right behind what's going on and kind of play the game back to front, although I don't recommend that. You kind of have to do a bit of tweaking most of the time to try and get the right angle. Shark's dead. So this game, I guess, is a game in which you swim around trying to save Prince Eric and try not to die like I just did. Oh well. That's the Little Mermaid. Robocop II. If you tilt the view around on this one, you can make Robocop look like he's got really weirdly proportioned arms. Like that one's coming out of his chest. Whoops. So here's the title screen. As you can see, you can go behind it. Oh no, it's gone into demo mode. So this is what the game looks like. Let's actually play it instead. Here we go. There's Robocop's head. A nuke laboratory has been located. Sometimes you have to kind of, if there's text, it'll do it to the text as well, so you have to kind of swizzle it back to try and read the text. which is hard. And yeah, here's Robocop 2, which is also a terrible game. It's a standard platformer, except the problem with this one, if you're wondering why it's shovelware, you've got this weird slidey momentum thing, as you can probably see there. Oh dear. Dead or alive, you're coming with me. Probably dead, to be honest with you. Every so often on this one, it'll just pick up the background and decide that the background is the part that it's going to make 3D instead. But as you can see here, it's got the same level of depth, which is really great, especially from that angle. If you could play it like that, it'd be brilliant. It's kind of hard, though. Yeah, there we go. Made it in the end. Oh dear. Really hard to see where all the enemies are coming from. It does add, no pun intended, a whole new dimension of gameplay to games that would otherwise just be dull, boring, empty, and soulless. Which is kind of the criteria for the Shovelware house. And also all the critique that my ex-girlfriend had of my personality. Right. Got a bit dark. I don't even know what you're supposed to do in this game. Apparently there's a... Oh, I fell in the water. Whoops. Apparently there's a nuke laboratory. So because you can build those now in Detroit. You can just pop over to Detroit and start building nukes in a lab. As you do. Yeah, like I said, it's hard sometimes with this on to be able to tell, yeah, and I don't recommend going from the front because that looks really weird, to be able to tell where the platforms are. But I really like the shadows. I like the fact it adds shadows so that it actually does have added depth and stuff. It's a nice little effect that it puts in there. And yeah, the reason Robocop 2 is shovelware, other than being a movie tie-in, which pretty much automatically qualifies things, even though this is made by Data East, who, especially in the 80s, were known for some great games, it's a platformer with like slidey physics, which you just fall in the water a lot. And if there's one, if Robocop has one weakness, it's probably water, because you could just throw him in a pond and then he's probably never getting out. But yeah, this Robocop's quite a nice example. You can see, as I said, some of the depth. And unlike some of the games I've tested, the colours kind of stay where they're supposed to be. There's this weird kind of... Oh, I fell through a pit that didn't exist. Cool. There's a weird kind of sketchy looking effect over the top, as if it's being drawn while you're playing it with kind of pencil crayons. But I imagine as the emulator is more developed, you know, all of these bugs and stuff will be ironed out. And for now, you got to admit, that's pretty damn cool. That was Robocop 2. And of course, it seems only fitting that we would go from Robocop to Terminator. This is the Terminator, obviously. There he is. There's Arnold. Interestingly enough, the emulator tries to pick it up as like a weird kind of text thing in his eye. I think in this game you play as John Connor. I'm not too sure. This one has some quite severe graphical glitches. Quite severe. As in, every so often reality will just kind of bend out of shape and you won't be able to see anything at all, which is quite severe. And again, as I said previously, it's sometimes hard to tell what is platform and what is background, because the emulator just kind of seems to pick up everything at the moment. I imagine in future what will happen. I don't know, you see. I dead. I dead? Oh, I dead. Oh, whoops. What I imagine will happen in future is there will probably be settings, I would imagine, for each game, because I presume it's like, the one thing I do know about NES games is that they have layers to the sprites, because I've used emulators before where you can turn off certain layers. So I assume it's a case of figuring out which layers need to be 3D, which layers are background, which layers are playable, you know, part of what you're doing, that sort of thing. I really like moving the... you can zoom in as well, you can do this sort of weird thing, but it zooms right into the middle of the screen. I don't know whether you can actually pan around, I don't think you can. But you can zoom in if you want, which is cool. Yeah, I assume eventually what will happen... This is a really bad game, by the way. I don't recommend you play this ever. Is that you'll be able to tell, you know, obviously depth is hard in 3D. I'm just going to put that back there. You'll be able to tell where the floors are, where the walls are, what's actually... Oh dear, we're having an epileptic seizure now. So yeah, this is an example of a game that doesn't run as well as the others. Is that a pickup? I think so. And this game as well is obviously utterly abysmal. Oh, it's broken, it's reset itself for no reason. Well, that was the Terminator. It's terminated. And this is Wayne's World, which for some reason was a game that they made. Look at that, you can really tell, like, the effects are brilliant. When you're zooming around Wayne and Garth's faces, look at that. That is just the most reactionary image. Right, so, this is Wayne's World. As a game, ordinarily, it doesn't make any sense, because you play as Garth and you have a gun. And as we all know from the film, they don't even own a gun, let alone many guns that would facilitate the use of a gun rack. And for some reason, this time around, I tried this earlier and it was fine. I'm doing it now and it's just the most broken, like the most broken thing, I think. So, Wayne's World's a bit of a trickier one. Yeah, it's a very temperamental emulator. If you're going to try it out, do be aware that it's tricky. This looks okay, you know. The game itself, goddamn terrible. I don't even know what the point of like. There's no irony to a Wayne's World game. Well, there's no sort of self-awareness, because obviously in the film they get the guy who runs the arcade, and he's talking about, you know, what a rip-off Miss Pac-Man is, and like how one of the levels in one of the games that's really popular is just too hard, so they just keep feeding money into it. That's actually in the film upon which this game is based, and for some reason it's locked up completely now. It's probably for the best. But this game still got made, and was awful, and the fact that it's breaking before you in video form is kind of the most entertainment you will get out of this game otherwise. So, at least I've given you that. And we're going to end on what was, during testing, the most impressive example of what this emulator can do. Which means now that I'm actually recording it, it's probably going to break horribly. This is Predator. On its own, an incredibly dull, by-the-numbers, platformer, shooter, Contra type thing. But in this emulator, actually made better. Now, obviously, up till now, it's been examples of, oh, that's kind of novel, but it's like, well, it doesn't necessarily improve the game, does it? However, with Predator, yes, it does. Here's some cutscenes at the start. You can see, like, it's really cool how the 3D effect goes around the silhouette of where the characters are supposed to be, which I really like. But then the cutscenes go on forever. Like I said, ordinarily, very by the numbers, very dull, not really worth your time at all. There's Arnold. Look at him. Yeah, he looks really cool like that, I think. However, you play it in 3D like this, and it looks so cool. Like, it works reasonably glitch-free, and you can sort of come along here, you know, make your progress through the level. Got your guns, got your pickups, you've got your pickups. Shoot the dudes, and it's like, I could see this as a sort of, maybe not this exact game, obviously, but something with this kind of style being, you know, $4.99 indie game on Steam. And I think the fact that it's least glitchy during this game probably helps, and this, I think, this is the note that I want to end on for the pure and simple reason that I think it best exemplifies what this emulator will hopefully one day be able to do. Like I said, as I said previously, at the moment there are many games that don't work. I wanted to do Bart versus the Space Mutants. It can't handle unlicensed games, so I can't do Action 52 or the Bible games, which is terrible. You know, but if you can, like, you can do this, for example, And in Predator, it actually works. You can play it in sort of weird front-on... Well, I mean, I don't recommend you do, because obviously there's a background in the way. But in the parts where it works, it looks really cool. And it kind of improves... I don't even know where you're supposed to go in Predator. I've never actually played it properly. So I'm just going to run around the first level shooting everything, because it brings me joy. And you can kind of go that way if you want with the camera, and then die horribly, which is what I tend to do a lot. And just some of the visual effects and everything just makes the level itself, the game itself, look kind of more than it was, which I think is the ultimate goal of this emulator, is to make these NES games. And obviously, you know, I presume the guy who's making it is going to prioritise stuff like Mega Man and Mario and Zelda. Shovelware doesn't tend to be people's primary concern, I appreciate. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a really cool thing. You can check it out if you want. I've put the link in the description. It's very fiddly. You have to use Firefox for a start. And you have to have your ROMs that obviously you legally own, that you've backed up yourself with that ROM backup hardware for the NES that we all have access to. You have to put that. You have to put it on a direct link. You have to play it online, which is a bit weird. There's no downloadable version yet, but yeah, I think this, if anything, this particular level here, and just playing through this part, shows off a wealth of potential for something, you know, that I never thought you'd be able to do this. I think this is really cool, and I'm looking forward to where this goes. And now I have grenades, and I think that's... oh, shit, yeah, I forgot that happened. Yeah, now I've given you all epilepsy. That's a good note to end on. This has been the Shovelware House. There's Arnold. Goodbye.